you are doing artificial intelligence. Okay. Now, artificial intelligence is being trained on so-called good data, right? It has to be, everybody will agree, no, you should have authentic data and believable data. So what is this authentic data? So they will say, see, we will take it from well-known institutions. Now, who decides what is a well-known institution? So, for example, then Sweden, there's an institution called VDEM, Varieties of Democracy Institute. Now, these chaps are funded by the same Soros, the same, those kinds of USA type organizations. And there are several of these guys. Now, they have on many layers created these indices. Now, you will train artificial intelligence based on VDEM, Freedom House, and all these kinds of things. And I have written papers to show how their processes of research are extremely dubious. It's the opinions at best of a tiny number of experts who they don't even tell you who they are. I mean, it's not some great objective basis on which these indices are being created. They are based on some opinion. And when you question those opinions, there is a lot of pushback, or they don't reply and doing all kinds of things. And so I'll tell you a full story on this just now. So what happens is that that artificial intelligence will now be trained on this. Now,
so the more the papers that come out from these institutes, the LLMs,
referencing cycle, LLMs begin to catch that. So now, supposing your grandkids, let's say, 20 years from now, Google up, is India a democracy? The system will say, no, India is not a democracy. It will use some term that they are today innocuously inserting into the conversation, that it's a elective authoritarianism or some funny term will be used. And that over time will become hardwired into the system.
Like moderates and extremists.
Yes. And so this is the same thing. The same way in which we completely deny our maritime history and the moderates and extremists, we will have electoral authoritarianism or some absurd term which will down by the default. Now you can argue with your grandkids that this is not the case, but this is what they learn in the textbooks. And the guys who are writing the textbooks will call the same thing. And so this goes on. So I have been challenging this for a while, and I'll give you one example of how I have won some of these battles. So the question is, why is all these VDEM, Freedom House, all these, Press Without Frontier, Reporters Sans Frontier,
Reporters Without Borders, or something like that.
Some French acronyms, laga do. Why should they be of any importance? Why should we take them seriously? How did they enter into the ecosystem of intellectual debate? So, firstly, obviously, the same 5-6 institutions, various kinds of international NGOs, mostly US billionaires, basically. Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, USAID, Soros, those kinds of guys, fund through layers these institutions. Now these institutions come up with these things, but they still need to be given another layer. So what used to happen is that the World Bank had something called the World Governance Indicators. It had a website, and what it did, it created these World Governance Indicators and gave them a stamp of approval. So when, for example, real world people like JP Morgan, let's say, creates or for example, the sovereign ratings, they would use the World Bank's World Governance Indicator as part of for sovereign ratings, for example, 20% of the weightage went to this world. Now you think World Bank, World Governance Indicator, stamp of approval ho gaya. Now you dig into this and you discover the following thing. It's actually not based on anything the World Bank has done, but on two random researchers who are not World Bank employees, who are the persons who are in charge of this World Governance Indicator. And if you research it enough, at the bottom there's a small disclaimer which states that, World Bank and its staff are not in any way responsible for these indicators, and that if you have any questions, go and talk to those two chaps. So I actually did that because I questioned many of these democracy, happiness, all these kinds of indicators. And I wrote to the World Bank.
Where Afghanistan is a happier place than India.
No, everybody is a happy place except India. So I asked them, how is this possible? Because, we had Reporters Sans Frontier. Once actually, I think it was Reporters Sans Frontier. Or somebody where where India's press freedom was less than that of Afghanistan and Pakistan. I remember this. It was 2-3 years ago. So I questioned this whole their methodology, etc., and I wrote to World Bank saying that please tell me how are you using this. So very quickly they sent me back a letter saying that sorry, we are not responsible for all of this. These two researchers are, and then you write to them, they will tell you we have not done anything. You write to VDEM. You see, no responsibility. So I questioned this whole thing, and India and some other countries also raised this issue in about a year and a half ago. And then the World Bank looked into it. And I think in late 2024, they issued a notification saying that they're withdrawing the world governance indicators and relooking at how to rejig it. So pushing back matters, but it requires a lot of intellectual effort. But it is well worth doing it.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching ANI podcast with Smita Prakash.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा.
The issue is टूटा है क्या भारत?
400 पार का मतलब ये है कि संविधान खतरे में है.
क्या हम लोग ये निर्देश देते हैं कि फला को गिरफ्तार करके जेल डाल दें?
वही तो कह रहे हैं सब.
ये बेबुनियाद निराधार आरोप.
सच्चा सुनना चाहो देखो स्मिता प्रकाश ANI. It does not lie.